Hey everybody, you're listening to Raw with Marty Gallagher and JP Bryce on ICTV. Today we're discussing 10 tactical training tips that will immediately and exponentially increase your transformational fitness results. Whether you're a beginner or a seasoned lifter, if you listen closely and adhere to the info we're about to discuss, you will grow and get stronger. All right, first up, out of the 10 tactical training tips, the first thing we want to discuss is forget everything you know about fitness. Preconceptions about training are problematic. Why is this, Marty?
There's an old adage, better no learning than wrong learning. We spend so much of our time trying to help folks unlearn improper techniques. I think everything in progressive resistance breaks down into one of two categories, techniques and tactics. So in some cases, it's almost better if they haven't learned any exercise techniques. It's so much harder trying to unwind somebody that's practicing bad habits.
Right, you want a clean slate, preferably.
If you can, I think the other point to keep in mind on this is that too much knowledge can be a bad thing. There's one phenomenon I notice is that there's so much information out there now that people tend to flitter around like bees to different flowers, and they spend 2 weeks doing this program and a week doing that and 3 weeks on this, and basically they're eternally looking for something that is mythological. There's no such thing as a perfect training program, and I think that's we live in an era where you have the curse of too many choices.
Well, yeah, I mean, just watch YouTube and you get 1,000 different opinions there from, self-proclaimed gurus and trainers and all that. In 2 weeks, yeah, if you're trying something for 2 weeks, it's not really going to give you the proper feedback you need to really see if it's giving you results or not.
I think realistically, you need to stick with something for 4 to 6 weeks. And I think you should see some sort of results from whatever strategy you're using within 4 to 6 weeks. If you don't, it's probably a dry hole.
Right.
All right, brother.
Yeah.
What else you got?
Okay. So not one, not the other, but all three. Old school cardio, hardcore free weight training, and nutrient-dense food eating in ample amounts. This combo is what is needed to build muscle and strength while melting off body fat.
Yeah, that's the classic combination, isn't it? Again, the resistance training and the cardio, they have to be. In this day and age, everybody wants to do one or the other, or if they do both, but both versions are so detuned and so mild that they really don't reap the kind of benefits. We like our resistance training to be hardcore. We want it to be of sufficient intensity to provoke that hormonal tsunami that we talk about. Mm-hmm. That only occurs in response to some sort of 100% effort. That's the kind of resistance training we want. When we do cardio, we want to sweat. We want to sweat our asses off. If you're not sweating, you're really not doing it. Sorry.
Right.
We seek to tax the cardiopulmonary system just like we seek to tax the external muscles.
Right.
Just as there is an adaptive response for the external muscles, there's also an adaptive response for the internals. Nutrition, that's everything. Essentially we have one of two generalized directions. We're either looking to be in a calorie surplus state because we're looking to add lean mass, or we're in a slight caloric deficit where we're looking to, pare waste body fat.
Right.
But in either case, we're consuming quality nutrients, and we're not fat phobic.
No, we're not fat phobic, especially in the fall and winter when we're doing a lot of heavy eating and heavy lifting.
Yeah, exactly. Were you with us when you were there when Dr. Phil gave his thing in Virginia Beach? No, you missed
Wagner?
it. Yeah,
What?
you missed that. You missed that.
Yeah, I missed
He
that
gave
day.
he gave an excellent presentation on why fat is unfairly demonized.
Hmm.
So it was just interesting to hear it from a cutting edge medical professional how far they're shifting back in the other direction, and all the bad stuff they laid at fat's door really should have been put at refined carbs door the whole time. So anyway,
Right.
well, that's a different topic. I don't want to
Yeah.
spin off into that.
Right. So
So all three of those, we have to have all three of those elements. I would argue that there's a fourth element, the psychological. We don't want to jump ahead of ourselves, but you have to have a game plan for your resistance training, a game plan for your cardio training, and a game plan for your nutrition. Obviously, they should be synchronized.
Yeah, and really, it's better to have a little of all three than a whole lot of, just one or two of those.
Exactly. Otherwise, you're just a big fat power lifter or a weak runner.
Right. All right, let's move on to number 3. Divide available training time between resistance training and cardio training. Combining the two triggers transformation. Explain that.
If you're a super strong dude but you're 30 pounds overweight, guess what? You should probably reapportion some of your power training and put it back into some power walking. Conversely, this is sort of an extension of the point we just talked on.
Yeah.
Conversely, if you can run a marathon but you can't lift 100 pounds overhead and you're sickly all the time, maybe you need to do some strength training and cut back on that 25 miles a week that you're doing and running. We need to quit continually playing to our strengths. The smart, the elite, the top guys, they attack their weaknesses and they let the strengths take care of themselves, right?
That's right. That's good advice.
But it's the hardest thing in the world because our strengths are our strengths because that's what we enjoy doing. Our weaknesses are our weaknesses because we don't enjoy doing it. So you have to come to grips with this idea. I need to do that which I do not enjoy doing, which is against human nature. That is by definition an act of will. All acts of will are finite. So the trick is that you use willpower to initiate the process, but at some point enthusiasm has to take over for will. Will is finite, enthusiasm is infinite, and enthusiasm is directly related to results.
Right.
So, that's the goal. The goal is to use will to get the ball rolling and to get all these hard things done that we don't like to do. But within 10 days to 2 weeks, you're going to be seeing results. Initially, you're going to feel better. Real soon, you're going to start looking better. Anybody who really attacks their weak points with the same ferocity that they used in their strong points, they get sensational results.
Right. And this can all be applied not in just the gym, but in business, in life, and all
there
that.
You go.
So
there you go.
Yeah.
That's
all
it.
right. So number 4, simplify. We need to simplify our resistance training, doing fewer things better.
Yep.
That's what we want to do. Cut it down.
Yeah, that's self-evident, isn't it? I mean, it's so much more productive to, squat than it is to do tricep kickbacks. There's a hierarchy of resistance training exercises, from 1 to 850. I think you're too young to remember. Way back in the day, Bill Pearl put out this gigantic book of I think it was 800 pages, Keys to the Inner Universe, and it was all. Was that the right one? Was it Keys to the Universe? He outlined every conceivable progressive resistance exercise, and he had hand drawings. So, I think in the tricep section, he had like 47 different tricep exercises. In the bicep section, he had 103 bicep exercises. like that. It was an incredible number of, potential. And this is in the age of free weights.
Right.
This was just free weights, and I think the only machine that he used, I think he used a lat pull down machine and leg extension, leg curl. Mm-hmm. However, having said that, you really can boil down the key core movements to we call the core four, which is the squat, the bench press, flat bench, deadlift, and the overhead press. To that, we would add the auxiliary exercises, which would be some arm work, some biceps and triceps. Again, for strength training, you need to include some explosive strength training. So, some power cleans, maybe some overhead squats, maybe some power snatches, something that excites the central nervous system. So
right.
You want to put that in. If, you can always use sustained strength protocols for your cardio and kill two birds with one stone. You look at a lot of the MMA training that goes on. That is what we would call sustained strength or strength endurance. You pick up a 100-pound bag and run up a hill, That kind of stuff.
Yeah, or what we saw a couple weeks ago, they were doing the farmer's walk with the dumbbells.
Yep.
Well, they were actually running, but
putting muscular effort into a cardio format.
Right. Yeah. Wheelbarrows and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So simplify resistance training. So number 5.
I can riff on that a little bit more. How do you determine? We think of it like as concentric circles. Like in the very, very core circle, you would have the core 4 lifts. But then the next layer out, you would have the good compound multi-joint movements, your rows, your power cleans, your tricep work. What else, JP? What else is a good secondary movement? Not necessarily one of the best, but one that you would regularly include. Press behind the neck.
Oh, right? Yeah, tricep extensively on the neck.
Good stuff like that. Then you could have a third degree out. That would probably be your machine stuff, like if you wanted to do some lying leg curls, or maybe you want a leg press or whatever. But and then it gets further and further out. In my opinion, the way further out would be stuff like tricep kickbacks and some of the strange lateral raises that you see that you don't quite know what they're supposed to do. They have some strange progressive resistance movements that people put way too much emphasis on. I remember talked to Dave Draper one time, and he was talking about the Arnold press. Everyone was doing the Arnold press. You remember that?
Yeah, I used to do them.
Yeah, well, Dave said, I trained shoulders with Arnold for 10 years. I never saw him do an Arnold press.
That's right. So I don't know where that came from.
I don't know. Anyway, but it's just like, yeah.
I think that was some kind of Weider principle or something.
Yeah, no. I helped write some of those Weider principles. The Arnold press is some sort of a corkscrew movement. Right.
Well, it is.
Screw the weight up and back down.
Right. It's a dumbbell. It's usually done seated. You've got dumbbells, and you're twisting them as you come down, with your palms facing you, and as you press up, your palms are facing out.
I see, and that obviously creates 5 or 10 times the regular amount of development.
Well, no, but I'll tell you, it's pretty effective if you try. It's not a bad alternate accessory exercise.
Well, I'm sure. Also, if I had you hold a 45-pound dumbbell plate out at arm's length in front of you, that would be a pretty damn good exercise.
Well, the key is to change it up, isn't it? Yeah, the key is to change things up.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so number 5 is sweat during cardio. So you got to sweat your ass off by spiking the heart rate. You can do HIIT training, 4-limb cardio if possible, but you got to get that heart rate up.
Yeah, I mean, other than swimming, if you're not sweating, you're really not doing it. I mean, you want to exert to a point that you're you're getting your everything inside of you is operating at high level, a high capacity. Again, you don't hear of too many people keeling over from, doing sprints, right?
No.
That's what we love. We think that sprinter interval type cardio is the perfect complement for a hardcore weight trainer.
Yep.
Just seems to match the personality type. It also seems to match our strength output. If you do a sprint like you're running, I don't know, let's say a 40, well, that's over in 4 to 6 seconds, depending on how big you are. And then, get your breath and do it again and again and again and again. And that type of burst, recover, burst again, that works really, really good for, again, the hardcore resistance trainer. And a lot of the bodybuilders, the high volume guys, they love to get into a steady state kind of a thing where they just sort of get into the pocket on some sort of a device and just kind of fade out, right?
Yeah. Now you prefer outdoor cardio.
Oh God, yeah, if you can, that's fantastic. That's the best.
That's you refer to that as old school cardio training.
Yeah, and using just your feet.
Yeah.
We didn't have steppers back in 1965, right?
Yeah, and you've done articles on this. I mean, you have, you live outside the city, up in the mountains, and you go out into the woods and do sprints and.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's perfect. Without another human being in sight, and right. I can listen to Miles Davis, Jack Johnson, any kind of craziness I want. I'm in total isolation. I have I can do sort of extended. I've got a 160-acre farm, and I've got about 10 different trails laid out, different types. Some of them are steep inclines, others are level. Mm-hmm. So it's a cardio playground, and nature always is changing, right? So. Well, in Mark, I don't know about in your neighborhood, but in my neighborhood, your old neighborhood, nature is always changing. So it's always different and new and fresh. And the air, I think there's something to the air outside, sucking in all that really good oxygenated woods air.
Right. Yeah.
It seems to have a revitalizing effect.
Yeah, I think so. It's got especially in the winter, you've got like a cold air intake, and things seem to work better on that. Turbos on cars and everything. I guess the human body as well.
Yeah. Well, that's right. The cold air is more compressed.
Yeah.
So yeah. So anyway, sweat, break a sweat, people.
So I mean, just to equate it to resistance training, your cardio training, you want 102% effort to change the body. I mean, your body is not going to change itself on 60% effort.
No, and 100% doesn't mean you've got to do a limit deadlift every time you come into the gym. And there's a million different expressions of 100%. 100% could be you're doing You're doing close grip bench presses and you're able to make 8 reps, but you know that you can't make the 9th. Well, guess what? You just gave 100%. You've done all you can do. Right. You don't have to eat the rep. You don't have to miss the rep to know that you shouldn't attempt the rep.
That's right.
So and that capacity can shift. Maybe you hit that 100% wall with 8 reps on Thursday, and maybe the following Tuesday you're able to get 9. That's okay. Wherever the capacity is, wherever the limit is, it's our duty to push up against that safely.
Yeah.
Safely. Yeah. And proper technique keeps us safe. As long as we stay within the strict technical boundaries, we won't get injured. That helps us to fail safely.
Right, which kind of brings us into number 6, which is look to equal or exceed limits in every workout, meaning taking baby steps to always make improvements. So how do we do that? We
use a periodized chart. We always have a plan, and Typically, we will start off the periodization cycles, typically 12 weeks in length, 3-4 week mini cycles inside the overarching cycle. And each 4 weeks, we're going to concentrate. Let's say maybe in the first 4 weeks, we'll do 2 weeks concentrating on 8 rep sets. Mm-hmm. Let's say in our core 4. We're not gonna periodize, concentration curls or Romanian deadlifts, but we will periodize squats, benches, deadlifts, overhead presses, power cleans. The important lifts. Yeah, we'll periodize those. We'll pre-plan for those. Each week for 12 consecutive weeks, we look to up our game. We like to start at about 10% below capacity, and so the question becomes, well, how do you work to 100% of your limit if you're working at 10% below capacity? Well, what you do is we have these intensity and amplifiers and enhancers so that we might use pauses, or we might use slow rep speed, or, there's a lot of different things that we do to make the individual lift more difficult. So even though at the beginning of the cycle, let's say a guy is a 500-pound raw squatter, and after 12 weeks, he would like to squat 550. Okay? Mm-hmm. Well, if he comes in 10% under capacity for 1, that would be 450. Now, if you rep that backwards, it means that the guy with the 500-pound squat is probably going to jump in at about 315.
Yeah.
So how does a guy that's capable of a 500-pound squat make 315 heavy? Well, one thing he can do is he can do a lot more reps than 1. Secondly, he could do ultra deep reps. Thirdly, he could slow the rep speed down. Fourthly, oh my God, what if he used pauses? Well, I tell you what, you put all that stuff on top of 315, and that'll make that 315 damn heavy. Okay, and that'll give a guy with a 500-pound squat all he can handle. So we use these intensity, and so we go 315, 325, 330, 335 each week. If we just bump it up 10, after 12 weeks, we've bumped up 120 pounds.
Yeah.
So the 315 guys now at 435.
Right. Yep.
So that's the way we nudge it up. And again, how do we make those really light weights heavy? Well, we have these intensity enhancers.
And I use those all the time. And, more and more as I get older, I like to use those because you don't have to go as heavy, and it's all about pristine form.
Yes.
And, making your form.
Continuous tension.
Continuous tension. And you just,
It blasts the hell out of you. I mean, it's like, who got me started on thinking on that?
Who?
It was Dorian. When Dorian Yates got hurt, he told me, he said I think he was squatting. He lost the ability to squat. He hurt himself squatting. So after that, he could only do leg presses. And he said he didn't want to do any more explosive movements. He could handle more weight explosively, but he taught himself how to kind of do, I don't want to say grind, but let's say continuous tension. You'll see it in blood and guts. Mm-hmm. It's that rep speed. It's like even Steven on the way down, even Steven on the way back. And he said that's when he got really big. And he said his injuries went away, and it just was, and within a relatively short period of time, he was handling just as much poundage as he was when he was explosive. So that was interesting. That got me thinking about it. Well, let's just slow this rep speed thing down. We slowed the negative down, but we hadn't been slowing the concentric, the positive.
And your joints will just feel so much better after a while. You do that for 12 weeks, and I mean, your joints will be good.
Well, there's no rebound. The rebound's what messes up the joints when the guys get the bounce at the bottom of the bench press, all that stuff. And
yeah.
So we take all that out of the training, and it just you can make lightweights excruciating.
Yeah, love doing that. Okay, so that was, we kind of skipped ahead to number 7, which is have a periodized battle plan. So just going back to number six, for a second. Look to equal or exceed limits of every workout. So what I really wanted to say about that was keep a journal, keep a log book. And if the key is to consistently improve and go up each and every week.
Okay, but I want to put a caveat on that. That's not exactly right. We're not expecting you to set a PR in every lift every week. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is that wherever your capacity is at in that session, right?
Right.
Try to work up to that capacity, realizing that week to week, month to month, that's going to shift. Now, when you're in a periodized game plan, where you actually have a 12-week written out ahead of time, then you start backwards. You start with the realistic goal. Typically, we would work backwards 10 pounds a week in the squat and the dead, 5 pounds a week in the bench press. So you work backwards that way. This is, again, the most simplistic form of periodization, which is called straight line. There's tons of books, tons of stuff in the internet. There's all kinds of sophisticated periodization plans out there. This is the ultra basic. This is like learning to drive a car with a stick shift. Okay?
Right.
And it's just that simple. 12 weeks, 10 pounds a week, 120 pounds a week. Start with your goal, work backwards. That will tell you the training poundage that you need to handle that week. Now, at the beginning, in week 1, it's 315, and that's like 60% of what you're capable of. Well, then you know what to do.
Right.
Make it harder.
And keep track of it. Log it.
Oh, yeah. Well, you can't. If you periodize, you have to log. That's the whole game. Periodization is going to the time, trouble, and effort to pre-plan. Periodization is another word for pre-planning. Pre-planning implies you got to write it down, or put it in your phone, whatever the hell you guys do today. I don't know.
All right. Let's see. So that takes us to number 8. Replenish post-workout. Very important. So explain the window of opportunity and what nutrients that should include.
Yeah, well, again, there's some debate. The window of opportunity, theoretically, has been around for about more than that, I guess now, probably about 20 years. And it makes sense. It says that if you bash the hell out of yourself in a workout, what could be smarter than to replenish afterwards, right?
Yeah, you have to. You've broken everything down. Your body's hungry. It's starving for nutrients.
So what are the optimal nutrients to feed it? Well, why don't we feed it the nutrients that it's exhausted the most during the workout? Science seems to indicate that the most traumatized is the muscle tissue itself, which is the amino acid content, and your glycogen gets all depleted. So why not deplete with carb, protein, post-workout meal or shake or something along that. Let's replenish with that which the body has just exhausted. How much? Depends on how big you are. It used to be that old cliche about, well, the body can't handle more than 30 grams of protein at any one feeding. Which is pretty listen, buddy, it's pretty ludicrous on the face of it, because that indicates that 98-pound Mary Lou Retton and 350-pound Brad Gillingham have the same rate of protein.
It's body specific.
Of course. Brad's intestines would look like a vacuum cleaner tube, right?
Now, wait a minute. I've seen him eat about 500 grams of protein at once, so he's way up there on the chart.
You were sitting right next to him eating 450.
Well, I'm not as big as he is.
Yeah, well, proportionally, I think you were hanging right in there with him. I think, I don't want to talk out of school, but I think feeding those boys, I think in 6 days we had like $3,000 in meals.
Oh yeah, forget about it. But I enjoyed. I was telling Stacy I thoroughly enjoyed it because I was finally hanging with like-minded guys that are always overheated all the time, always got to have the windows open, and are
Yep,
hungry
yep.
all the time. I loved it.
Right. No one's ordering a salad and and mineral water.
So, do you think? So, what do we figure? Are you of the mind that we need a pound to, a gram to a gram and a half per pound of body weight?
Well, in terms of a replenishment shake, okay, let's get back because we talk about the window. That was a phrase. I actually helped bring that into vogue back in muscle and fitness back in the day. Window of opportunity. It made for good. It was a good grabber. And some people say that the window is only open for 30 minutes after the cessation of the session. Other people says it's open for 3 hours. I've heard people say, "Oh, it's open all day. Don't worry about it." I don't know. It just I just feel better if I take in my particular after workout concoction is I use Perillo high protein with raw milk. And I use a double serving, so I'm getting like 60, probably 75 grams of protein and a bunch of really quality fat from the raw milk and good amount of carbs, a little bit of sugar in there, which I think a little bit of an insulin jolt right after a workout is not necessarily a bad thing. A little bit, right?
Yeah, I'll have a little bit. I'll have the same Perillo protein as you. I don't have whole milk. I actually have non-fat milk. It's
Nah, get rid of that non-fat. The non-fat has a worse insulin spike than the fat milk.
Well, yeah, I got you. And actually, that's the only time I drink milk is after my workout. But
get you some of that organic whole milk that they sell at Whole Foods or one of those stores that you got out in California, and you'll lose your mind when you mix that with Perillo, and you got to load the Perillo up, man. You need a double serving of that stuff. That's like a soda fountain milkshake.
Yeah, and like you said, it's about 75 grams of protein, which may or may not be too much, but
who cares?
Who cares? I'd rather overload it than underload it.
Well, that's the way we're built, apparently.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Let's see.
So Brad would get breakfast called, I don't know. They had these names for. We went to an upscale diner, and they'd either have names for them like the heart attack or the stroke. And in addition to one of these giant breakfasts, he'd say, "Oh yes, and let me have an order of 4 extra pork chops, please."
And he wouldn't call it the stroke. He goes, "Oh, I don't know if a guy should be saying that, should he?" He goes, "I'll have that with 2 extra pork chops." Yeah, that was great.
And then 3 hours later, he'd be going like, "Marty, I think it's lunchtime."
No. After every meal, he would go, "All right, so what's for lunch?" And I'm like, "Yeah, my kind of guy."
We'll do a show on Gillingham's eating habits.
I've actually got some pictures of all that.
I tell you the truth, he's actually a very clean eater. He just eats a lot of really clean food. Look
how many times he had broccoli out there.
Yeah. Crazy. Like, I'll have 4 pounds of steamed shrimp and 6 orders of broccoli.
Yeah, that was cool. That was fun to watch. I should have recorded that.
And then he go, I'm getting wild with Marty, so I'll have a light beer.
Have a light beer and 5 pounds of cheesecake.
Yes. All right, get back to the show.
All right. So number 9 was invoke workout contrast. So every 12 weeks, change out your training template with something radically different to shock the body into change.
Yeah, can't be doing the same thing year round. We love to do that. We all have a favored mode. oh, I'm a powerlifter, I'm a bodybuilder, and if you stay in the same training groove, you cannot realistically expect to see any kind of significant gains. Most people end up turning certain favored training routines into religions, right?
Right.
They just same thing all the time with the same machine, the same poundage, the same reps, the same way. And they love it. They just love it. They love the groove up. You see them at the YMCA's all the time.
But the body has an amazing way of adapting to things and normalizing things. I mean, just think back when you first started drinking coffee, right? A cup gave you a buzz that lasted an hour or two, and then after a while, that just went away, and you had to do 2 cups or whatever. Training's the same way, so you got to keep changing it around. Otherwise, you're just going to stagnate and you're going to stay the same.
And then the question becomes, what's representational contrast? What's significant contrast? And the answer is damn different. If you've been using a low volume, high intensity approach, well, guess what? You need to go to a high volume, low intensity, or moderate, let's say moderate intensity. When I say low, when I go high volume, low intensity, all the high volume guys get mad at me, like Steele and Brad. They get mad at me. They go, no, we're not low intensity. All right.
Right.
So the high volume, moderate intensity guys. And so what does that mean? Well, it means you go from doing very few exercises for very few sets and reps into we're going to do a hell of a lot of exercises, but we're going to do them with more moderate payloads, right?
Right.
That's change. And one is like shooting the muscle with the shotgun, and the other approach is like flogging it to death with 100 lashes. That's how I describe high intensities, like getting shot with a shotgun, and volumes like getting flogged for, like a sailor. So, and you need to pendulum back and forth between those two, right?
Right. Yeah.
And why not sync it up with a cardio regimen and a nutritional regimen that matches that?
Right, exactly. Yeah, change your cardio around drastically too.
Oh yeah, there's not much point in trying to get ripped when you're lifting heavy in the middle of the winter and using a power program.
Right.
And there's not much point in trying to get strong as hell when it's hot as hell in August and you're doing a high volume bodybuilding program with living on next to no calories, just salads and lean protein.
Which takes us into number 10, synchronize seasonally appropriate eating with training.
Ah, I love that. That is genius. Who wrote that?
Well, I think you did.
Oh, damn. That's great. Yeah, no, that's this whole idea of, I actually got this, I watch a lot of the Food Network, and I'm very up on the celebrity chefs and the elite chefs and all that stuff. And one common theme that came from watching them, the top guys, was that they insisted on the freshest possible, locally sourced, seasonally appropriate foods and proteins and produce. And why? It's because the freshest has the most vibrant taste. They were only interested in one thing, vibrancy of taste. We want the same foods, but we want them for potency of nutrients. It just so happens that the foods that have the most potent nutrients also have the most vibrant taste, right?
Right.
So elite chefs and elite athletes seek the same foodstuffs.
Right. But what kind of foods would you prefer to eat during winter and fall?
Oh my God! Of course, all the heavy cuts of meat, the stuff we can do in the Dutch oven, the stews, the homemade stews.
Yeah, thick stews.
Yeah, exactly. Lamb, shoulder, and and pork, and just thick, heavy. It's like right now, we've got snow in the ground, and it's perfect. Earlier today, I went out and did 6 sets of squats. And as I had to shovel my way out to the garage, I did 6 sets of squats, came back in, and we ate savory stew with this delicious, homemade. It's just homemade food. It's just power packed, and it's just perfect for this type of weather. It's seasonally appropriate. A lot of root vegetables, thicker cuts of meat, and then this gradually segues as we get into the spring. We're going to get in all the fresh first vegetables we get in springtime around here are asparagus. So you get the asparagus coming in early April, then everything blooms. It's a perfect time to lean out proteins. Naturally, you don't want to eat that kind of food when the weather gets warmer anyway.
Right. And what's cool about that too is you can synchronize the seasonal eating with the seasonal training, which is usually 12 weeks.
Yes, exactly. Because 12 weeks is 3 months. 3 months is a season: winter, fall, summer, spring.
Yeah.
Now, fall and spring are transitional. Winter and summer, that's the apex of the pyramid. In the deepest of the winter, ideally, optimally, mythically maybe, that's when an athlete should be their thickest, their heaviest, their strongest, their most powerful. In the depth of the summer, that's when they should be their lightest, their leanest, their lowest body fat percentile, their most functional, right?
Right.
That's mythological man, right? And over time, you swing back and forth from these periods of, well, I'm building my size and strength, and now I'm going to refine on what I've built. It's classical bodybuilder.
Sure.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah.
But it works. It really, really, really works. And I feel so sorry for these folks that live on, these poor bastards that drink skim milk with their protein powder. And I don't know if you've heard about that. We hear about that.
I don't know any of those people.
Well, here it's a big rage in California. I don't know.
The only reason I do that is because I have to drink that lactate stuff.
Oh, you're lactose intolerant?
I'm yeah. So I don't even know. Maybe they make the whole milk in lactate, but I don't know.
Maybe you could take it intravenously, like get hooked up to an IV.
Yeah, why not?
Post workout.
Yeah, you got a lot of good ideas, I'll tell you.
Yes, I do. I'm a trainer of champions.
All right, so listen, I think we covered a lot of that.
What a good ground.
If you want to, for anybody wanting to kind of go through this at your leisure, if you go to the website, if you go to ironcompany.com, click on the articles button at the top, and then click on Raw with Marty Gallagher, and then in the search window, just type in 10 tactical tips. It'll come right up. You'll see the picture of Big Brad Gillingham deadlifting the Hummer tires. So click on that, and then you'll see the 1 through 10, and you can go through that, and maybe there's a few things in there that we didn't cover that you'll enjoy reading. But other than that, we're done on that. So we'll wrap up here. Check out Marty's weekly column and podcast, Raw with Marty Gallagher, at ironcompany.com.
Yes, indeed.
And
I'm the Google of strength.
T-shirt, right?
Yeah, we're not gonna let slip on these T-shirts. These are going to be a big runaway hit.
There's about 12 at least that I owe you. All right. And then Coach Marty.
Buy my book. Purposeful Primitive. That's the Bible.
Purposeful Primitive. And you're also available for online coaching and seminars.
We do great work with regular people.
Right.
But you got to be motivated and have the situation. If you got the situation, if you're highly motivated, give me a call, because we routinely work big changes for regular people.
Right. And to get a hold of you, just go to our athletes page at Iron Company, send you an email. Your info's on there.
Yep.
And lastly, check out the growing Iron Company free weight line, including urethane dumbbells, barbells, kettlebells, bumper plates, Olympic bars, and much more. Yeah, the Kirk Kowalski Power Bar. Check that out. So we've got all your fitness solutions in one place, from gym flooring to cardio and everything in between. So check us out, ironcompany.com. And until next time, forge your passion into what you want to be. Later.
I like that.
All right. See you later.